Why are Michael Mann movies so cool? Michael Mann makes a lot of cool movies. He's not celebrated as much as other directors, but his fingerprints are seen all over the movies of some of the best filmmakers today. Some a respectfully embarrassing amount, and others little quirks that send a nod to the legendary Chicago director. But why him? Why does Michael Mann all of a sudden become the paragon of cool movies?
Well, for me, the action is the juice.
Mann isn't one to really branch out of his sphere of the kind of movies he makes. Just taking a quick glance at his filmography, there's a clear pattern. Testosterone-induced dramas that take place in worlds where morals are thrown to the wayside. Sound familiar?
Say hello to my little friend!
You can't begin to talk about the gangster film without uttering the word cool. Dudes in all black talking about fighting over and killing each other over power and money. While Mann does use a lot of attributes that make up a gangster film, most of which are used in his own crime movies, what separates his filmography from the likes of Scorsese's crime films, or Fincher's crime films, or any film in the history of the genre? What separates him is his ability to make intense realism a stylization. Take the crime films of Scorsese, for example. While the bedrock of these films are based in real, dark underbellies of society, it can't help but add that much-needed levity to balance out its hardships, comedic scenes, wise guy-isms, and small bits of banter to alleviate the amount of pressure placed on the protagonist and the audience.
Well, the way you tell the story and everything.
Funny how? What's funny about it?
Going to another side of the genre are Fincher's crime films, which are cerebral and mind-numbing in nature. They don't rely on comedy to balance its grittiness, but they do rely on satire to combat its own demons. Think Tyler Durden's hubris in Fight Club, or Robert Graysmith and Paul Avery's conflicting characters in Zodiac, allowing these films to saturate in much cooler environments without the outlandish comedic tendencies. For Mann, however, he does away with the lavishness and satirical energy that the genre leans on, and the result is an increasingly dark, selfish, and intense satir to his films. But how is this real intense stylization achieved? Take this scene from The Insider. On death's door of financial, professional, and marital failure in the whistleblowing on the Brown and Williamson Tobacco Company, former executive Jeffrey Wigand has to make a crucial choice that will affect him and his family for the rest of their lives. Stay quiet about the tobacco industry, or...
Fuck it. Let's go to court.
Dr. Wigand would like to leave now.
It's the seagull squawking, it's the waves brushing against the land, it's the prickling strings as Wigand makes the ultimatum, and it's the calmness in his voice when he says it. While the subtleness of the scene is a masterclass of direction, the bluntness ties it all together. Under severe amounts of pressure, how will the protagonist respond?
That's something I observed in language by people who find themselves in dire physical situations, and they want to communicate something and they don't want to have to repeat it, so they will say it very specifically like this. They'll emphasize hard consonants and put little gaps so that you get it the first time. And so it's a very commanding and a very operational mode.
We're $150 slacks. I wear silk shirts. I wear $800 suits. I wear a gold watch. I wear a perfect D, flawless, 3-carat ring. I change cars like other guys change their fucking shoes. I'm a thief.
This pressure is never alleviated by small comedic levity or infused with satire. It's just raw emotion. And what adds that layer of cinematic realism to the fabric of these scenes is letting the atmosphere paint the film. Whether it be the sounds of a busy night at the hospital, cars drifting through the highway, or the clink and clanks of plates and utensils. Further immersing the audience into the world to the point where it feels as if you're in the film itself.
Hear a piece of music, it evokes something, a poetic impulse in me that captures the mood of it. And if I can bring audience into the inside, into connection with the inner life going on within characters, that's what this does for me. So that's where it comes from.
Take almost any action scene from any other action filmmaker. It's dressed in all sorts of fancy looking shots that, while yes, look fine for the most part, but don't hold the same grittiness that Mann's films do. Compare this to the shootout scene in Heat, and you can see what I mean. It's gritty, boots on the ground, and filled with tons and tons of close-ups and medium shots to place the audience in the position as a bystander rather than a viewer.
At the time, I was very interested in negative space. I was interested in asymmetrical compositions and the things that would subjectify the experience of the film. That was the one imperative that I wanted to do. I wanted, to the extent that I could, bring audience subjectively into moments and scenes and characters.
And it's the sound design of his films that seals the relationships between the film and the audience, whether it be through extremely ear-piercing sound design, experimental intense music to push the pace, or the inclusion of both. It may all just be noise on the surface level, but it adds to the overall anxiety-ridden temperature of these worlds. And while these do an incredible job of enhancing the feel of Mann's films, the root cause of the intense, realistic, and coolness of them are the characters. They almost exclusively involve male protagonists under extreme amounts of pressure. And while the external conflicts push these men to the brink of their moral values, it's the effect of these events on their personal lives that balances the realism and its cinematic style, having real personal conflicts that affect and get affected by their surrealistic situations.
No, my life's a disaster zone. I got a stepdaughter so fucked up because her real father's this large-type asshole. I got a wife. We're passing each other on the downslope of a marriage, my third. Because I spend all my time chasing guys like you around the block. That's my life.
It's why his films feel like they're observed with a dreamlike quality. And as fascinating and intense as these worlds are, they're shown through the lens of Mann's style of realism. It's what makes the bulk of his strongest and most memorable scenes. It's not about them. It's about their place in the world and what they represent in their societies. It's what the crime genre was always destined to do, and what Mann does with it is the perfect blend of cinematic style and realism.
Who are these people? Ordinary people under extraordinary pressure, Mike. What the hell do you expect? Grace and consistency?